now your clients see you as the only person they will ever talk to about anything, because you have essentially invested in yourself and you've now become a leader, and people want to be led, not meaning they don't know what to do, but they want somebody to help them know what to do in the next steps. And you've just spent the time to build your best self so you can give yourself away to your clients. And that's truly a world-class experience.
Welcome to the Real Freedom Show, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Freedom, where we talk about building time and financial freedom through different opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. If you want to get started on your real freedom journey, feel free to check out our website, freedomthroughrealestate.com. That's freedomthroughrealestate.com. We have great videos, past podcast episodes, articles, whatever you want to get started to find your path towards financial freedom. And today we've got an amazing guest. We have Justin Udy here, and he's going to talk about his path of building financial freedom. So lives in Utah, past background in marketing, started as a real estate agent, added investments like a lot of folks do, went back and got his master's degree, does real estate investing, does some real estate development, and I'll let Justin share a lot about his story. But welcome, Justin, to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Hey, great being here. Thank you so much.
Well, why don't you just start by sharing a little bit about your background and kind of sharing your story, and we'll dig deeper from there.
Great. So I graduated from the University of Utah, and I was actually on my way to my last class. And I remember my friend called me and he said, "Hey, why don't you come work with us?" He's like, we're at the time they were actually doing loans. And I said, "Okay, great." Finished my final. 2 weeks later, I started there. And interestingly enough, I actually worked for American Express while I was going to school, because they did a tuition reimbursement program. So literally, like, I was able to graduate with like zero debt. It was fantastic. And so I was so used to just being on the phone, being in front of people. I was on this thing called a service recovery team for like the platinum card holders. So when there were big escalated problems, they'd come to me. Looking back, that may not have been the best decision for them with a 24-year-old, but like at the same time, I'd been there a couple of years. So I was just really used to being on the phone. Anyway, went to the loan business. I was so used to being on the phone. Really learned quickly, like, if you're not on the phone or you're not in person, you're not making money. But I remember, I was closing, 10 loans a month. And this is when rates dipped below 7%. I remember the day the guy came out of the office and yelled, "It's a refi boom," the moment that they dropped below 7, because it had never happened before. And, but the difference was as a lot of folks in that industry at that time, that was kind of that 2000, 2001, 2002-ish era. A lot of folks were buying cars, getting sushi, smoking cigars, doing whatever, and I was buying investment properties. But after I bought about my 15th property and referred my 15th client to my agent, he's like, "Look, you understand the physical sticks and bricks. You're flipping homes, you're doing loans, you're buying them yourself." He's like, you should really get your license." And that first year, I was rookie of the year for my brokerage that, was one of the largest brokerages here in Utah. And I just kept purchasing. But did build a team. I will tell you, I got to a little about 50 transactions on my own when I was really like kind of starting to get burned out. I just was like, man, I need to get somebody that's going to kind of just like, do I get out of this business or do I just dig deeper? And funny thing is I put a post on Facebook, and one of my past clients saw a guy that I had cold called. And he's like, "Hey, what if I came and worked for you?" And that's first year he did 27 transactions. I think I did 60. And from there, we just kind of started going up in transactions and so forth. The most I ever did was, I believe, 97 transactions on my own with a full-time assistant. So I am used to volume, know how to list and sell property. I am a boots on the ground guy. But I do think you do have to have your sales business in line in order to have that cash to get into real estate. But over time, those properties have given me the ability to grow cash flow. Had I not had my rental properties during that whole, 2008, 2010 era, frankly, I don't know how I would have paid my assistant. It was those rental properties that gave me the additional income for me to feel like, and my business was able to double kind of during that time. But now we're kind of lean and mean. We're kind of like a SEAL team. I have a full-time listing partner that assists me. We have 3 full-time buyers agents. I have 3 on staff. I have a listing manager. I have a transaction manager, and then photography and marketing that works for me. So that's kind of the way we're set up, and multiple projects, multiple developments kind of in the works.
Talk a little bit about the conscious decision to get into real estate investing. I think for a lot of people, they research and research, and then they do more research about the research they did to try to decide to get into investing. What was it about investing that really attracted you to where you decided to get in? And then kind of, for a lot of people, they have to overcome some sort of hurdle. And I'm kind of curious, what maybe voices in your head or uncertainty or whatever maybe held you from making that leap? Because I'd really love to inspire people to get in, right? Because you're not going to get better unless you get started. So I'd love to kind of hear about that initial transition for you.
No, I love that. I love that. Can't get better unless you get started. I'm going to steal that from you. That's a good one. I'll tell you, I remember like during that break, when I was between school and that first job, I remember there was a number of books I wanted to read. And one of those books I remember was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it was just kind of a seed of like, I already kind of had it in my head, but it was just like verbalized kind of this internal feeling of like, I know there's different avenues that I can go put myself into, kind of put myself into that road in creating opportunities for myself, because I knew I'd be able to work. I just kind of needed an avenue. So that gave me kind of that seed of what should I do. Now, I will say this, since that happened, I remember one of my friends called me, and there was one of these big investment groups that was around. I remember them charging $10,000. Now, again, this is me as a college student, literally looking at this thing of $10,000. And I just remember saying, like, I don't know anybody. I know nobody that does this. I have this thing inside of me. And I was closing loans, like I was saving my cash like crazy. And I remember paying them the 10 grand. And although I will say it wasn't worth the cost of what they were charging, but it was worth every penny to me, because it just gave me the 2 or 3 little things that I needed in order to be like, okay, that's that. And I think that's the $1 million idea, whether it be the book you read, the person you listen to, even if somebody's listening to this, you can just get like 2 things out of this and implement it. It could be your $1 million idea. And so that was a really key. And I think about that. You have to invest in something or people in order to really listen. And I think that's super important. I look back at that now and I think, man, I give more information in one of my team meetings than I probably got out of that full $10,000 that I spent, or the people or some of my clients. But it was worth it to me because it just got me solidified and again planted that seed that I can move in that direction.
I think for me, hearing you're willing to invest money in yourself and into your education, like that's really important, because there's a lot of people out there, you hear a lot of wannabe real estate investors or wannabe, entrepreneurs or people in the real estate space. And like, well, everything's out there on YouTube, right? I can just watch a video on YouTube, but it's kind of finding that right piece of information at the right time. I remember hearing somebody say, if you think about college, right, you've got like your 100 level courses, your 200, your 300, and your 400. You may hear a piece of 400 level course information when you're only at the 100 level of understanding. And so it's kind of the right message at the right time that really matters. And I think about some of the courses that I've spent a lot of money on, and more than anything, it probably helped me to open up my mind and think bigger, was really the value of that investment. It's connections. It's thinking about something different. I remember I invested in a course on being able to do the cash offer for your homes, right? It's a very popular thing. I took a course on it. We ended up not doing it because we realized that was an avenue we didn't want to go, right? So I spent that money, but it got me to where I really did want to focus. And so that money still had a lot of value. And so, yeah, there's a lot of value in being able to invest in yourself and invest in your education. But yeah, I'd love to go back to the podcast guests and have a tally of who really had Rich Dad Poor Dad as like that key turning point, because that was the same way for me as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because then there was only, I mean, there was like a couple books like No Money Down by like Robert Allen, and there was like, I mean, really there was some, but they weren't, it was just different because you didn't, it wasn't like publicized, other than these kind of late night things that you'd maybe see. But I think that's kind of I don't want to say that's our industry in general. I think maybe that's people in general. Sometimes we get a little bit of information or like, oh yeah, I totally get it. I remember I had this literally 100-unit development project. Now this is as a listing agent that we'd won. It interviewed like 30 agents. And in fact, it's interesting because the gentleman that bought it is a billionaire. Never met him once, but I only dealt with his attorneys for 4 years as we sold out this 100+ unit development project. And I felt like I really knew development I felt like probably like 70%, but I always had this little thing in me like, what about this? And what about that? And, just always these little questions. And I think that I will say this, just you have to make sure that you are living your day where you're being your best self so that you can listen to yourself, because your conscience will tell you different things that you should probably be doing, whether it be call your mom, say you're sorry, or build your life or build your business. And I just remember this just kind of inkling of like, man, I need to figure this out. And that's when I ended up doing this master's in real estate development. And I realized I probably only knew 40% of it. And it gave me so much more knowledge and experience and expertise. And I will say this, anybody that's thinking about it, it is not for everybody. There's CCIM courses, there's different investment things that you can do. You do not have to, but I knew for me, again, we're selling over 200 homes a year. I have staff, I had people, I knew I mentally, physically had to get out of the office and sit in a class to pay attention, or I just never did anything out of it. So just, I tell people that of just like, when you feel that need of like, I have something and I just need a little bit more, like listen to yourself and quit talking to yourself and move in the direction of just getting the information you need, because that may be exactly the direction you should be going. Or like you said, not be going so you don't cause yourself a problem. I mean, that's how we did the same thing you did, but ours changed of like, now when we go out to properties, we give 3 offers. Here's my cash offer. And this is what I'll give you closing next week. Cover everything, leave everything here. Here's our retail pricing. This is us bringing in our stager, doing our home selling plan, everything A to Z. And then here is, I will give you no interest, no payments, invest in your property, and we'll sell it with an after repair value, which works good for you. And so now they have a menu of choices. Our listings, we get more listings. They have more options. I mean, we finished a sell of a property yesterday, got a call on a property today where they need 520 grand within the next 48 hours. So it's just like, giving options does plant seeds, creates opportunities, not only for your real estate business, but also so that you have things that you can take that cash to invest in, long term.
I love that you're giving people choices, because I think a lot of times the old way of thinking in real estate is just list your property, highest amount of money, right? And realizing that that's not the best fit for people. And when I started to get into investing myself, I remember I went to an event, and in a lot of the investment circles, I feel like real estate agents is kind of like the 4-letter word. Like we're the person who like, oh, they're lazy. They just list houses and make a bunch of money and don't do any work. And so I felt like as an agent, sometimes like we were looked down upon in some of these investor circles that I was in. And I remember asking a question, and I don't remember what the question was, but he just kind of laughed and he's like, oh, I love real estate agents because you tend to only think one way, right? And I just had a conversation with an investor who's considering selling his house, and he talked to a listing agent, and guess what her advice was? I think we should list your house. And he's exploring cash offers from these other companies, and he's like, but what I'm netting here kind of makes more sense for me in my life and my next step of what I want to do. But my agent's saying, well, we should just list your house. And I love that you have a fresh perspective and you see how the right answer for everybody, it's convenience, it's timing, it's, making a couple of chess moves. And it's not just sell my house for the most amount of money, which is helpful, but there's a lot of ways that people can take a look at it, and you can solve more needs doing it the way that you do it versus just list my house and that's it. That's the only tool that I have. It's a hammer in a toolbox. Well, not everybody needs a hammer in their toolbox at that given time.
Well, I think what you said is very key. And it's just, you do have to understand the business at a higher level. You have to understand at a deep level all asset classes in order that you can be valuable, not only valuable to yourself, but valuable to your clients. And what ends up happening over time is now your clients see you as the only person they will ever talk to about anything, because you have essentially invested in yourself and you've now become a leader, and people want to be led, not meaning they don't know what to do, but they want somebody to help them know what to do in the next steps. And you've just spent the time to build your best self so you can give yourself away to your clients. And that's truly a world-class experience. And I think that's the biggest gap that we're seeing in the business of people that are getting out versus those that are staying in, is not providing a world-class opportunity for your clients. But it starts with yourself. Early morning wake up, self-development work, getting a strong workout in so you're vibrating at the highest level every single day. You're making sure you're spending at least 10 to 15 minutes on your business so that you're growing in your business every single day. And you're spending 3 hours of business development work every single day. And then you're being your own best client. When a deal comes up, you take advantage of it. When something's an opportunity, you're able to like tie that property up and figure out what you can do with it, right? And you follow that plan. Not only are you kind of growing to be like the best human that you can, but also like people will see you different. Like you're emulated different. There's somebody that they want to emulate, because they're like, man, like they have got it together. They get up, they work on themselves, they work on their body, they work on their business, and they are the best. So it's like, why not try to be the best in your business? And it only takes time, effort, and energy. But yeah, you should look at things through the lens of an investment, not just a sales lens. So there's been plenty of properties where I'm like, I don't think we should sell this, but let me tell you why. And we talk through the numbers. They're like, oh my gosh, I've met with 6 different people. Not one of them told me that. And it's like, no, I totally get that. This is why it doesn't make sense. But listen, anything else you need, I'm always going to be here for you. Let me know. And guess what happens? Every single friend, every single family member, any person from them on out, they are referring to you because you are the person that was able to provide the information and knowledge. This is the problem people run into. They think they have to have all the knowledge. That's not the case. Think about a newspaper. It gathers the knowledge and disperses it, right? Like, I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of transactions, over 1,000 transactions personally. So nobody has to do that. Like, yeah, you gain knowledge by doing experience, but you can also gain it from others. So I guess I just say, like, if you're just starting, like, don't think you have to have all this experience. It's actually the opposite. Gather the information and knowledge, knowing there's more to grow. And frankly, you'll be lethal because nobody else tends to, in life in general, go the extra mile, do a little bit harder, do the things they need to be their best self.
I try to be a connector, right? Like, and part of doing this podcast is being able to interview different people all over the United States and all over the world that are doing different things in real estate, because then what I want to do is to be able to connect somebody where it's like, this is what I want to do, Mike, in real estate. And I can say, oh, you should talk to so-and-so, right? Like you said, I don't have to have all those answers, but if I can know somebody who can help them, even if it's just go talk to that person and maybe that inspires a new idea or a new thought or a new way of doing things, there's a lot of value there. Because yeah, you can't be the expert in every area as it relates to residential real estate sales, real estate investing, real estate development, you name it. You have to know enough or enough people to be able to put it all together.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a key point, is like, you really just need to know at least 3 to 5 to 7 really strong things. If somebody's like, well, Justin, I really want to get into development. I'm like, look, there's 5 key points I'm going to walk through. I'll go on a weekly meeting with you. Within 90 days, you're going to be able to tie up your own project. Like that's, it sounds easy, but it's like, really, there's only some key things. Like the other stuff you can learn along the way. Same with, flipping a house. Like, hey, you got to make sure curb appeal, kitchen, baths, and amenities, make sure they're in line, make sure you have equity, make sure you have cash flow, keep yourself safe. Okay, great. You can flip a house. Great. Now let's think about a multi-unit. You want to make sure you know how to build a pro forma. If you don't, guess what? I show my team how to deal with a pro forma, operational costs. Why? because when they get an astute investor, they just want to be able to talk the language. They don't have to know how to do everything, but they just use my blueprint, plug in the numbers, and they're at least able to go over the details. So now these deals that were 2, 3, 400 grand, they can get into 1, 2, 3, and $5 million deals because it's the same math, you know?
Mhm.
And so just know enough so that you can, it's spending the time. But I do think you need to understand land. You need to understand multifamily. You need to commercial at a general aspect, understand what leases are and different things, but understand like highest and best use, not even development. Know
Mhm.
what, take away location, 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 take away all these other little things, understand highest and best use so you can think for your client, for yourself, what is the maximum value you can bring to a project. And you'll find that when you think that way, man, you're pushing in so much value that people are just like absolutely mesmerized. And they're like, man, I can't believe. People literally say over and over, like, I nobody's even gone over that with me. But it's just because you spent a second to just like, let me just think about this for a second, you know, and you'll just find it like these ideas will come to you because you've spent the time and energy to build your best self, you know, increase your knowledge, and so that you can essentially serve them.
I'm curious for your real estate investments that you have, how much of it has been deals that you've actively pursued? How many has maybe just been stuff that's run across your desk where it's, people that are like, hey, Justin, I've got this deal. Let me know what you think about it. And you're like, oh, this might be something I'm interested. I'm just kind of curious for somebody in your shoes that's been around, has your hands in a lot of different things. How much of it is it actively, I want this thing, I'm going to go get it? Or is it just I'm networked with the right people and stuff kind of comes my way?
Yeah. So I would tell you 75% of it is agents making a mistake, not understanding highest and best use. They literally
Mhm.
are marketing it incorrectly. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how they're doing it. Case in point, property came on the market. They were marketing this property as a duplex and a house and a duplex. And they said that one of the properties had a commercial overlay, and the rents were just trash. Like they were just like $300 on one unit. Market rents in our market is, 1,000 to 1,500 on something like that. And they were rough. I mean, properties were just freaking hammered. Uh, Long story short, saw the information, knew the project, did a little bit of research. Anyway, long story short, made a full price cash offer, said I'd close in 10 days. They're like almost shocked out of their mind, almost backpedaling, like, whoa, 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 why are you making a cash offer on this? But that property ended up purchasing for cash. And that property had locally our cap rate or rate of return, essentially locally it's kind of closer to about 5%. It produced about a 7% cap rate. Okay. So it had a higher rate of return just as a normal investment. But this is the problem. They were marketing it as a single family little residential thing. That whole thing had an overlay, which I was aware of, that had 5-story buildings that we are going to be able to fit 50 units on, and a commercial about, little over 3,000, under 5,000 square feet of commercial space, mixed use. And guess what? We're just land banking it because it has a good rate of return, has good cash flow. When it makes sense to develop it, we will go vertical, tearing down those buildings, and it'll be an asset that I can keep forever, one that I'll be able to have as something for myself and my family. And I did bring on partners on that, just that were very experienced with that specific type of product, doing a mixed use project. But again, that was on the market. Like that was just one like that. So, and there's other ones that people do sometimes refer to you, but I hate to say it, they're typically overpriced, over leveraged, like they're maybe not the best deals. I will say this, it's usually you going through, I call it the 110-1 rule. I look at, maybe I have different settings and different things that I recommend that every agent probably should have in their criteria so that they can do searches and they will locate opportunities. And then they'll look at 100 of those, they'll narrow it down to 10. They'll have maybe a folder or a saved file, and they usually find one that's like the deal of a decade, comes along once a week. And so doing those searches, doing those evaluations will help an agent to locate things, leveraging the system, not them looking on their own in order to find something. Because usually they're out there, and you can do other little things. Like I do believe in marketing yourself. I mean, my degree's in marketing, right? I believe in marketing and doing things. But most of my deals, if I think of like the majority of my properties that I've purchased, they were all on the market. And if they weren't on the market, they were overpriced on the market. And then I just ended up going in after as an expired property, just going in and being like, yeah, they're not going to accept any of this. But then we got into discussions or even being creative on a few things, whether it be seller finance or different things where the person didn't want the cash, but they wanted to keep income coming through. One of my fourplexes I bought that way. It was just an older guy. He's like, I want to have cash flow for the next 7 years. So he carried the contract. A post office, a retail building that we have, with the post office leases, they wanted to do seller finance. So just know like those things are out there, but you just have to have it. Every morning I get up at 4:40 a.m. I pray, I go over my goals. Like, where am I headed? Like, think about a plane ride. Like every time they're always getting a little bit off course or hitting turbulence, but you got to get centered again. So for me, I got to use those morning hours to do that. And that centers me of like, what do I got to do today? I do a super hard workout. I will tell you every time I have a workout, different things come to me, people I should call, things I should do. I hurry and try to put it in my phone. And when you're at that high vibration, you're like operating at the best level. You'll just find that you're operating differently. That your eyes are almost open to opportunities. And when hard things come up, you're just in a problem solving mode. Sometimes, in the real estate business, things just happen. You're fine. Like, dude, I've spent so much time on this, bag it. I'm out of here. I'll spend more energy here, as opposed to be like, you know what, give me 1 second. And you're just solving these things that produce you opportunity, income, and you'll just look at it differently. So I just highly suggest, like, if people aren't following a routine, like follow one, do something, get that mindset right, get your habits in line of just, again, being your best self so that you can essentially serve your clients and it'll also help you in your business. I know it sounds silly, but it's like, it's an upward trajectory. Whereas most people hate to say it, get up late, don't eat good. They're just not in a problem solving mode. And we tend to pick up those deals. So I hope that maybe gives a little bit of insight, because it isn't maybe a specific route. It's just, maybe we're just seeing those opportunities different, but we're also operating our day differently.
Well, and I think for somebody listening to this, seeing all that you've accomplished, we talk about one of the favorite phrases that I have is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, and so you haven't encountered all of these opportunities in a month, and all of a sudden now you've done it all. You just pick up one, you pick up the next one, you pick up the next one, you pick up the next one, and then you look back and you see, oh, wow, we've got a good portfolio that's growing here. Or even in your real estate agent business, right? Like you do a deal, you do a deal, you do a deal. Well, now you look back and it's like, oh, we did 100 deals. Like, that's awesome. And so it's just slowly growing and taking on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So I'm not going to do that development deal right out of the beginning. Maybe you do. However, the next key unlocks the next door. And so it's just kind of finding the next deal, the next deal, the next deal. And you've done a great job of that.
No, and I appreciate it. No, but I will say this. I mean, the one thing where I think people do get stopped, every single property, residential, multifamily, commercial, any of that, I've always felt like I was paying too much. Every single time I felt like I was paying too much. In fact, I remember we went on a boat ride where all the kind of the local investors, guys that legitimately have 300 doors, flip 100 homes a year, like the people in our market kind of all got together. It was actually a really cool like day on the lake. And I remember I kind of posed that question of like, how many of you feel like you've ever got the deal of the decade? Like, really? Or do you feel like, and every single one of them kind of laughed and was like, we feel like we've overpaid on every freaking property, So just give yourself a little bit of forgiveness. Like, if you're like, dude, this is too much, because over time, if you just think about the history, like, you're probably going to end up paying a little bit more than you want for a good asset in a good area that's providing good cash flow, and be okay knowing that that is going to grow. It's going to increase. You're going to have opportunity there. And I think people get stuck sometimes on stuff like that. And I would just say, like, look at that, pull the trigger. You can always sell the property. Don't over leverage yourself. But you gotta buy real estate and wait. Don't wait to buy it. It's a mistake not to just get into it and get moving.
Real estate agents, are you tired of letting the busyness of life get in your way from achieving your real estate investing goals? I'm super excited to announce we've created the Real Freedom Investor Agent Tribe. It's a place for you to come, get educated, and network with others so that you can make sure that you're hitting your real estate investment goals. So find out more on our website, realfreedom.com. Click on the store link. We've got a membership, we've got a mastermind group, and some private coaching as well. Check it out. I've priced it super low. The goal is to get you in, not have price be a determining factor to keep you from your goals. So come check it out, schedule a call with me, and we're happy to see where your real estate journey is going to take you. Well, thank you, Justin, for coming on and sharing. For people that want to learn more about you, learn about what you're doing, maybe partner on future deals, whatever this might be years down the road as somebody stumbles across this on YouTube or, a podcast, whatever, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so just go follow me on Instagram. I go over all of this stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff I'm going through of everything, even on the team meetings. If people want one-on-one kind of FaceTime and they want to know how to do something, reach out to me. I'm responding to everything that comes through. I know people are like, well, you're doing all these deals. It's like, no, I respond to every single deal or every single message. So just, one-on-one me, and I'll be happy to go over whether it be flips, multifamily, residential, even if people are evaluating projects, that's a thing is like, just reach out to me. I'd be happy to go over it. But yeah, anytime, anything anyone needs, like just reach out, I'll message you back and happy to help any way I can.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Justin, sharing. We appreciate it. Best of luck to you in the future.